Real estate marketing, we're going to tell you if you're getting ripped off. This is one of 3 key numbers when you're getting a property appraisal. Stay tuned.
I'm the ringleader, so listen up.
Yeah,
Oh my God.
that's how I feel, Lise.
Oh my God. This topic actually makes me feel physically ill sometimes. It actually does. I think this is a great topic to cover. Yeah.
I think there's actually nothing more disgusting than either telling someone their property is worth something it's not, or 2, upselling everything on the marketing list to the point where it becomes almost a joke, a rip-off, where we see some marketing invoices for campaigns, some of them that are not even sold. And I just shake my head knowing the truth.
Agreed. And look, there's real estate marketing, don't get me wrong. There's VPA, there's vendor paid advertising, right? We've got things that are just not negotiables. Obviously we offer our $0 marketing strategy. We spoke about that the other week, but there's things like the real estate portals. These are set prices, and I know REA is under investigation by the ACCC. That's probably a conversation for another segment as well. But they're set prices, realestate.com domain. But then we see some things that come across us. Actually, I want to talk about one, Billy. I want to talk about one. I want to actually give a case study of something that came across my desk just the other week. And I was like, surely this has to be wrong. It was an invoice for a property. I'm not going to name names and I'm not going to even name addresses, but it was an invoice for a property that had been on the market with another agent for about 4 or 5 months. It didn't sell. It came over to us. We sold the property within a week utilising our $0 marketing strategy. That is a fact. And we smashed it out of the ballpark on price. The marketing invoice that the vendor sent over to me, I have to say, I looked at it a few times. I showed it to you as well, Billy, and my jaw hit the floor. It was for over $30,000. Guys, we are talking about a circa $3 million property. Like, what the hell? And, breaking that down, there was so much stuff in there. And I just thought, what is all of this? These people had never sold a property. They really needed to have their hand held. And I must say, looking at that invoice, I was like, these people have been rorted. Absolutely rorted. And, I hope to God that they actually do something about it. I think they were so gutted by the end of the whole process with the other agent. By the time they'd come over to us, and I was like, don't give us anything. Here's what we're going to do. Just trying to build that trust up again. But the invoice was, so realestate.com and domain, standard prices, right? Standard prices, they have to be. There was all sorts of upsell items on there. And I was like, what is all of that? What is all of that? There were all of these admin charges. There was copywriting. I don't know. I don't know the last time we used a copywriter. The charge for that was $1,000. You can put this stuff into ChatGPT these days for free.
But not only that, if you're employing someone with energy, passion, expertise to sell your property, why is the agent not writing the ad? In most cases, the agent knows the house back to front. They've been through the property. They've spoken about the unique features and probably understand the location, talking to the owner better than the buyer to begin with. So that's where it sort of stems from. But it was just craziness.
It was out of control, like actually out of control. And the worst part is that they didn't even sell the property. So these vendors are out of pocket $30K for a property and they had a terrible experience. They're out of pocket all of that marketing, that the agent couldn't sell. And
Mm.
and there was stuff on there. Look, I get it. You know, sometimes that can happen, right? Where marketing has been paid and the property didn't sell. The vendor's expectations may have been unrealistic, the market changed, whatever it may be. But there was so much stuff on that invoice, and I was just going, what is going on here? There was a $10,000 styling charge. This is a property, with all due respect, that was a knockdown property. The property
Yeah.
was, you know, over 50 years old, and there's like this fancy Cocoa Republic furniture inside of this property. Listen, we use styling companies all the time, and I think there is definitely a time and a place for them. But I'm looking around going, sorry, $10,000 for the styling? Where? You went through the
Yeah.
property, Billy. You tell me, like, was there $10,000 worth of styling in there?
Well, not
I'm like,
only
this
that,
is
but just picture it in a
outrageous.
completely original house. It didn't actually match or complement the style of the property, nor the feel. I mean, it was quite bizarre. A couple of things I think you need to look out for as a vendor and
Yeah.
understand. Number one, with realestate.com and domain, on the most part, they do form the two biggest costs of your marketing campaign, excluding the likes of styling and painting and carpet and all those other property improvements. But if you just look at the marketing itself, the portals would be the number one cost. Now, realestate.com charge their vendors based on location. So the
Correct.
postcode
Yeah.
you're selling in changes the pricing slightly. Domain.com charge their vendors based on price point. So if you're $1 million apartment, you're spending a slightly different number to a $3 million house. Those are the two sort of variables. The other variables is the size of the advert. Now, it doesn't mean you're exposed to more buyers. It just means that the agent's logo gets bigger, really. That's the difference between a $500 advert and a $5,000 advert, with a few sort of other features behind the scenes.
Yeah.
But they're probably the two biggest charges.
They're,
Easy
they're
ones
your
to
main
look at.
costs. And look, I get it. You know, I'm selling properties anywhere from $800,000 to $20+ million. You know, I of course we understand that the more luxurious the property, up will go those marketing costs. It's a no-brainer. You know, I sold a beautiful property for circa $15 million in Mossman recently. And of course, the marketing expense there was far greater than if we're selling an $800,000 property. But be aware, guys, ask around. You know, you may go and draw on the experience of some other agents and say, this is the cost of the marketing for my property. Do you think all of these things are totally necessary for me to get the most amount of money for my property? It's not the most amount of exposure for the real estate agent. Is it going to
Correct.
get the most amount of money for your property? Ask around, do your research. As Billy said, those real estate portals, the prices are locked. They do vary from area to area. I'm still, you know, I again, this could be a conversation for another time, but I still find it hard to get my head around the fact that if you are selling an $800,000 apartment in DY, the realestate.com and domain prices are the same as if you're selling a $4 million property in DY. Those prices don't change, but they are fixed costs. They are fixed costs. So what's normal, Billy? Like, what would you consider? Let's say, as an example, we're selling a $1.5 million property on the Northern Beaches, which is still, you know, it's quite entry level. Let's call it a townhouse, all right? What
Yep.
would you expect to pay? I'm a vendor. What should I expect to pay?
Well, I'll tell you what we do, because it's quite different. But without marketing, we include your professional photos. We include a signboard. Now, the cost on that's about a $1,500 investment on our part,
Yeah.
but you can't sell a property without good photos. So let's assume there's a $950 investment there. Where vendors get caught out when they go and employ their own photographer, or they're using an agent that's outsourced, we're very lucky we've got an in-house team. The extra costs are sunrise or dusk photos, and agents say, oh, we won't bother doing it then. But if I had a client selling with a view, the view needed to be taken with a sunrise. That's the whole point of difference for this house. And they didn't do it because it was too expensive to get the photographer there at 5 a.m. It's complete and utter craziness, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So photos, signboard. Now, signboard's about $450.
Love a signboard,
Again,
by the way. Love it.
they can
Love it.
can vary. You can get signboards that light up. In some cases, that's genius. Floor plan, $250 if you need one made from scratch. However, because we've got an in-house media team, we can rebrand a floor plan. The rooms haven't changed since the property was last sold, so let's rebrand it. There's things like that your agent can pay attention to. And at the end of the day, it's saving you money. And there's 3 numbers that we get asked for in an appraisal. What's my property worth? How much is the marketing? And what's your commission? Now, if one of those numbers is well out, it should be a red flag. And as Lisa said, it should be consistent across the board because we're all assessing the same property.
Not only that, guys, like things like newspaper advertising, again, I feel like they're quite irrelevant these days. I do know in certain areas, I know in the eastern suburbs, North Shore, around the Mossman area, the newspapers are still really big. I understand, but you can also layer your marketing strategy. So you might say to your real estate agent, listen, why don't we do this? Why don't we start with realestate.com? Why don't we start with domain? Why don't we start with these photos? And why don't we start with a great signboard? And then if we haven't seen the buyer traction coming through, then we can look at doing other things and other add-ons as we move through the campaign. But there's so much fluff there, guys. You've just got to ask the question, is this going to get me the most amount of money for my property? Ask around. If you're looking down the barrel of a marketing invoice and you're raising your eyebrows going, oh my God, go and ask around and ask people what is normal. These days, you've got so many community Facebook pages, whack it on there. Trust me, the community will tell you, or call another real estate agent and see what their prices look like. But please be aware. I've seen some absolute doozies come across me. The one that I saw a few weeks ago was testament of that. Honestly, absolutely horrendous. Horrendous.
Yeah. Put yourself in the shoes of a buyer.
100%. And not to say it's not necessary. I love marketing. I absolutely love marketing. I've been doing marketing long before I was doing real estate. I'm massive on marketing and I love great marketing, but I don't love it when people get ripped off. And I think that's what this segment's all about.
Correct. Yep.
That's all right. We're here to help, guys, if we can.
Indeed. Thanks, Lise. Have a good day.
Thanks, Billy. See ya. You too.